Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with the tactics, talking a tank review of the new wheeled tank, or at least the AMD 178 Bravo, the Panhard Tier 6. What is it? French. French. It's French. Wheeled vehicle. Man, these things, what a little controversy we have going on with these. I think in general everyone's kind of enjoying it, but it is changing, maybe changing the meta a little bit. It is a bit of chaos at Tier 6, I will say that much. But we're going to review this tank, take a look at it. It is a light tank, or a light car, or whatever you want to call it here. But it exists in the light tank line. We're going to do the standard thing. We'll do an overview. We'll take a look at the tech tree considerations. 3D model. Do a comparison of the other scouts that it competes with. We'll look at my stats after 20 battles, my setup, and some examples of gameplay for the Panhard AMD 178 Bravo Tier 6. I keep wanting to say it's Italian. It's not Italian. Tier 6, French light tank. Let's move on to the overview. So what is this thing? It's a wheeled vehicle, something that is brand new to World of Tanks, but you can see it's got a turret and armor, well, ish, and a gun, and a big gun. So it's basically a wheeled tank, if you will. Development started early World War II, or but right before the war. Obviously stopped when France was taken out of the war, and then relaunched after the war was over. And it's a wheeled vehicle. So it saw combat in Indochina, North Africa, and the Near East. And it is a easier way and probably less maintenance intensive way to get a turret and a big gun into battle. It's got its drawbacks for being a wheeled vehicle, but that's all real world stuff. How does it work in World of Tanks? Again, new game mechanics. We're going to talk about that as we go on the wheeled vehicles. But this one here, you can see, actually was an existing tank or car or wheeled vehicle. I can't call it a wheelie or a wheelie boy. I have to. Wheeled vehicle is not as, doesn't roll off the tongue very well. I need to come up with something, but wheelies or wheelie boy, I can't do it. Anyway, here it is. Size wise, it's actually kind of small. It does have a high profile. But as far as the tanks go, you can see that it is quite a bit smaller than the rest of the tanks, minus maybe the 12T. Although the 12T is heavier than this thing is. Why? Because all this apparatus weighs quite a bit. Tracks, wheels, axles, all of that stuff. Whereas you're just running around with tires on this thing. But everything else is roughly larger, or is larger, than this tank right here. When we get into the further on in the tier 7, 8, 9, and 10, they get really quite large. But for the tier 6, which is where the line starts, not a very large vehicle. It is skinny. So front profile, while the profile is relatively tall, it is skinny side to side. So that does make it a little harder to hit right there. And this armored tire right here will fire off and stick itself to the enemy like a sticky bomb. No, it doesn't do anything like that. It's just a tire on the side. I don't know if it's extra armor. Might be. We'll have to look at that when we get to tanks.gg. Let's move on to tech tree considerations for the, this is a mouthful, Panhard AMD 178 Bravo. All right, this is slightly complicated because you're going to come up the light tank line and the French line, and that the ELC BIS you're going to transfer either to the 12T or the AMD 178 Bravo, or you're going to unlock both. Realize that the ELC has 2 crew, whereas the AMX40 had 3 crew and the 38 had 2 crew. Holy cow, what a mess crew is going to be until you get here. And, oh, by the way, these tanks have 3 crew until you get to the AMX30, which has 4 crew, which is a medium tank, and the Batchat, which has 3 crew, which is a medium. I mean, basically, once you put your crews over here, you're going to have a hard time switching them back and forth between there without a lot of retraining. It's a problem you have anyway, but the crew positions are different, and really, once you get here, you're basically training a new crew, minus maybe the 2 you've moved from the ELC BIS. As it is tier 6, I would recommend you just put a new crew in there, buy a gold crew, or use your female crew, whatever you want to do, but get yourself 4 wheeled tank crew, and you can start moving them through the process right here as you go. The 1357 is a premium tank for the French, but it's only got 3 crew positions. So a little bit tricky right there. As far as, and this is interesting, looking at the modules and going through down here on the comparison tool, there's a way to take a look at what you can use and what you can't use based on whether it tells you can put it on. Meaning, usually you've got to put tracks on to get some of the extra equipment. From what I can tell, all you have to do, well, first thing, all you have to do to get to the next one is go through one engine and then unlock the 61,000 that you need for the EBR Hotchkiss. That'll get you to tier 6. That's a lot, by the way. For a tier 7 tank, that's a good 20,000 more than most tier 7 tanks. I found some that were in the 50s, but I don't know if I found any tier 7s at 61,000. For example, the IS, the tier 7 Russian tank, is 21,000. It's crazy how much experience it is to get past this tank. But all you really have to do is go through one engine, which costs you 23, and then another 60. So if you want to run the stock configuration, which is it's okay, you're running the 47 millimeter, which by the way is not a bad choice if you really just want to get to the 7 and not deal with the rest of this stuff. It's not great, but the pen is only about 14 less than the Top Gun here at 120. And of course the Alpha is terrible down at 55, but it is a pew-pew gun. And I have actually been machine gunned down by the stock gun in this thing. You get a bounce or two or miss, then that little pew-pew can actually take you out. So I've seen a lot of guys running that. It is viable. I don't think it'd be too fun for 61,000. That's just me. But you don't need the extra wheels here to put any of this stuff on. So you could ignore the wheels, put everything to top, and then do the wheels, or even just ignore the wheels. Because if you go through the engine and then get the Hotchkiss dude, you're going to automatically unlock that gun, the Top Gun from the tier 6 when you go up there. So if you're really in a hurry, that's one option you can do, and you don't need the tires, the extra upgraded suspension, I guess you want to call it, to put anything else on this tank. So those are the tech tree considerations. Let's look at the 3D model, if it exists. Well, look at that. It does exist. Here it is. Where's the wheels? Well, they're not modeled, or at least they don't show on this. This one's here, though. Is that armor? I got 18 there. I got 13. It looks like it's 5 millimeters of armor or more. Even, oh, look at that metal piece. So yeah, that appears to be part of the armor on it, but as you can see, it's, I mean, goodness gracious, it's nothing. I mean, it's 21 right there and 9, and yikes. You're not bouncing anything. Even the mantlet's not that much, to be quite honest. So this thing will take damage. It is an HE magnet that can be blapped by HE. It has some goofy angles here and there, so maybe some auto bounce on lucky shots, things like that. Tires eating shots and that kind of thing. But remember, when you get hit by this, or when this thing is hitting the tires, it doesn't get tracked. It gets a damaged tire and it gets slowed down, but it gets slowed down considerably, and it's really not far off of being tracked. But that's pretty much it for the 3D model. There's not much else to say other than it's just a soft kind of tank. So for the comparison, this is a little weird because it's a wheeled tank and everything else has tracks, so there's going to be clearly some differences, but the game is played by driving around and shooting each other and dealing with armor and depression and all that kind of thing. So as far as that goes, it can be compared. I've got the AMD up here. I've got the French 12T, the tier 6 track tank, and then the rest of the tier 6s out there with a couple premiums on the end just to take a look at. Firepower wise, it's at the low end. You're talking about 110 damage per shot with a 120 penetration. It's not awful, but as you can see, it's near the bottom or at the bottom. Only the 5916 is I'm sorry, the T50-2 is worse on the penetration, and a fairly low alpha. There's no auto loader on this like you will see on some of the higher tiers, so that's one thing about this that you'll note. The HE is a decent round for what it is, but overall it's a bit anemic, and probably a little bit more anemic than most of these tanks. Rate of fire is up there, so it will shoot some downrange, no problem. Reload time, not too fast at 4.2, but not far off the rest of these, a little bit slower. Gun traverse speed is decent. Really good gun depression, so that's one of the places that this tank shines. At minus 12, it can use a lot of terrain that other tanks cannot use, comparable to the T21 and the KV-2801. The rest of them, as you can see at this tier, minus the Type 64, are actually relatively bad at this. T37 is okay at minus 9. You'll see that its aiming time is best in class, so it does have a decently accurate gun. .38 is not really accurate, but then you consider the rest of the tanks in its tier, and it's pretty solid. Pretty solid. Not great, but solid. And its average DPM is at 1571, right in the middle, not near the Type 64, which frankly is overpowered at tier 6 because it was a premium light tank that was unaffected by the light tank's changes when that happened years ago. and they never touched it. So it's actually a very, very good tier 6 light tank. But this new one, okay, 1500, not too great. Going down survivability, hit points really low on the hit points. This thing has not a lot of staying power, so you do have to be very careful with this tank when you're getting into a scrum, because it will not last very long. You're going to more rely on its speed, which interestingly is not that great. We'll get that in just a minute. And here we are at its speed. Weight load limit, it's at 9.5 on the weight. That's the lowest in class, or the best, however you want to look at that. It's a very light tank. Even the AMX-12T looks like a bruiser compared to this guy. So very, very small, light kind of tank. You're not going to want to ram in this thing at all. 65 top speed is okay. There's actually a faster tank. The Type 64 is faster than the Panhard is at 72.4. But look at that second number, 65 backwards. All right, there's some capabilities with that, using backwards speed to get out of situations, that actually this has quite a huge advantage on other tanks. And we'll show that in my replays a couple times, I believe, where I use that to good effect. Here's a new stat, maximum wheel turning angle. It is very clunky. It does not maneuver very well. We will talk about that when we get to replays. This one does not have the boost either. So when you get to later tiers, I want to say that starts at tier 8, where you hit X and you get a faster speed or a higher gear, however you want to look at it. And then the lower speed is more maneuverable, the higher speed is less maneuverable. This doesn't have that. It just has its maneuverability set, and it does 65 forward and backwards, and that's it. So no X in there. A lot of people are asking that question. Concealment wise, pretty good. It's as good or near as good as most of the top ones at 7.06. So decent concealment, so it can get to spots quickly and hide. Of course, so can the rest of these. And then the problem, though, is its view range is atrocious. And that's, a lot of people made a lot about that. It's a fact. 300, you know, someone else with bad view range is the 12T with 360, a full 60 more than the armored car does. Now, this makes zero sense from a real world perspective. There's no real reason why this armored car would have worse view range than the tanks do. It's a balanced decision because of the speed. I find it interesting at tier 6 because this tank is not any more maneuverable. In fact, it's less maneuverable and adds basically in the middle of the speed with the rest of the light. So it is unnecessarily gimped at tier 6 with its view range. When we get into the faster ones at tier 8, 9, and 10, then we have balance considerations. Down here at 6, it's dopey. But in order to keep it similar to the rest of the cars, it has crummy view range, and it kind of forces a really spastic gameplay style. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's just a big scrum of wheeled tanks, and it seems like all the light tanks and even some mediums are getting drawn into it because there's so many tanks out in the open flying around, people trying to figure this out. It's just getting really crazy. Anyway, the signal range is fantastic at 741. That's an incredibly important. No, that's not important. So really, what do we have here? We have an anemic light tank that's kind of fun, that doesn't have any of the special capabilities that the higher level wheel vehicles do, except for the reverse speed. So it's painfully average at tier 6. It really is painfully average. But it is your gateway drug to the faster, more capable, higher tier tanks. Let's move on to the stats that I got after. All right, when I do my reviews, I like to have about 20 battles or more under my belt so I can give you a good idea. I just did a recent review on the M41 Delta where I only did 4 battles, but it was a copy pasta of a Walker Bulldog. This dude is a brand new type of animal in this game. So you can see after 20 battles, 60%, doing okay win rate wise. Look at the hits is really low, and that is from a couple things. The first thing is the gun is really not that accurate. It really isn't. As you get to the higher tiers, they get quite accurate, but this tier 6 one suffers from what most tier 6 tanks have, which is a crummy accuracy on the gun. And the fact that you're constantly moving and shooting, which is going to hurt your accuracy as well. This thing, I rarely stopped and fired. I did on occasion, but most of the time I was firing while moving, and of course that's going to affect your hit rate right there. Damage ratio is at 1.89 and destruction at 2.42, which is pretty darn good actually for a light tank. So I'm dishing out and killing many more than I'm either being killed or getting hit by. Experience at 775, which is pretty good for a tier 6 light tank. Damage caused at 885 and 175 on assistance, which is actually kind of low for a tier 6, and I found that one to be really interesting, but some of that, or a lot of that, has to do with it's just terrible view range. Now, if I go to my Type 64, enemy vehicle spotted 1.4 and destroyed. If I go to my Type 64 up here and take a look at it, then I'm running at 914 and almost double, or basically double the damage caused with my assistance number right there. And comparable in the damage ratio and destruction ratio. Again, I have 951 battles in this thing, so that's going to be a more solid example of what my capability in that tank is going to be after 900 battles, vice 20 in the wheeled tank. But really, the wheeled tank is basically showing me what I expected to see at that tier and that type of tank right there. Maximum damage 1,725, so not really blowing anyone away with that. And the maximum kills was 4 in there. All right, let's see how I have it set up. I really thought about this for a while because I wasn't sure how I wanted to try to go about this thing. I did play the tier 8 Panhard, the one that they gave us to test, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so while they were looking at these wheeled tanks. And I was wondering, well, do I want to make it, do I want to try to maximize its view range with passive capability? I'll put a camo net on it. I'll put the binocs. Maybe I'll even put optics and binocs just to kind of maximize its view range. And I decided against that and decided, hey, let's just go rage around and see what this mobility thing is about. So I put the try-hard combat mode of medium rammer, vents, optics, just to improve its terrible view range a little bit. I gave them food. You can see the crew is a very good crew with brothers in arms cooking. This is a crew that I retrained to the 178, but it was actually one of my best 3-place French light tank crews that I had, and I just decided to move it over to the wheeled vehicles, and I'll move it through as I do these reviews and grind through all of these vehicles right here. However, it does have kind of the weak sister down here. He only has 3 skills because clearly there weren't any 4-place, keep calling to say in Italian, French light tanks out there, so I had to grab a guy from somewhere else, and he's getting there, but you can see that he's not anywhere near as good as the rest of the guys. But I've added as many bonuses as I can to everything like the view range by using the vents, the food, and the brothers in arms, doing everything I can to try to make them have better view range. You can see that my commander's also got the recon, and I think he is working, yeah, so he's got the situational awareness, so really just maximized the view range. If we come over here then, what does that end up getting me? 382, which is, holy cow, all those bonuses got me to the base number of a lot of the tier 6 tier 6 scouts. So it's just, oh man, it's so painful, so absolutely very painful. I am carrying 32 AP. I've got 4 APCR and 9 HE, so a surprisingly good HE round. We look at this, the HE round actually is 175 damage for a little 75mm, which is pretty good. 120 on the penetration, 160 with the APCR, and 110 alpha with the regular rounds right there. So that is my setup. I'm running large kit, and food. I decided against the fire extinguisher. Normally I carry a fire extinguisher. I hate being lit on fire, but I really just wanted to maximize everything as far as the crew goes, so I'm carrying the food. I don't think I've been lit on fire so far, but this is an HE magnet. I fully expect that to be an issue. So let's look at a couple examples of gameplay. First example is a game on Malinovka. You can see on bottom tier, 357. There's my little tier 6. Lots of the wheeled tanks raging around. I'm just showing this to give you a general feel for this. The problem right now is there's so many of these running around that it's just a big rage fest. I don't know how the meta is going to settle down, or if it's going to settle down. I don't want to make any guesstimations right now. I think, sure I will. Let me just prognosticate a little bit. I think these vehicles are going to open up some games where there are more than a couple of them in the game. Do I think they're going to have a huge, massive effect on the meta? I don't think so, but in the games that there are several of them, it will. All right, it's going to make, I think, it's going to make the game a little bit faster, move a little bit faster. Especially middle to late game could cause some real issues for people who are more used to the stately pace of World of Tanks. But at tier 6, this thing doesn't do a whole lot more than any other light tank would. And there's a lot of YOLO going on because people are just trying to figure them out. All right, that being said, we're on Malinovka. Spawned into the south. They've pushed across the field. You can see the big spastic, you know, the guys running in the field. This guy runs around. He just, hey, I got all kinds of mobility. Here I come. Unfortunately, I get spotted. He dives back down. He's getting punished for his temerity. 1357's trying to rage in and get him, and I feel like, all right, well, let me join in on this fun. I'll just drive my silly wheeled vehicle in here, and we will drive around shooting people. Try not to ram the 1357. Then I do. I'm wondering, dude, can you please stop? This is me attempting to make the auto aim work, and here's the thing: the auto aim is supposed to be different with this tank, in that you only have to get kind of near the tank. You don't have to actually highlight him, and it should lock on to the nearest thing. That is something that was on a mod a long time ago called Auto Aim Plus, and it worked like a champ, which is now illegal, by the way. There's a couple auto aim assist kind of mods that are legal. I stay away from all mods because I just don't know what's legal and what isn't, and there's not a lot of great communication on that. But that being said, it doesn't work well. The vanilla Auto Aim Plus, whatever it's supposed to do for these wheeled vehicles, it's 50%. I mean, that's what I feel like. It seems like the other auto aim, which is a problem as well for me, it seems like it works half the time, and I really don't know what else to say about it. It's just not good. So whether it's mech'd that way on purpose to make it kind of hard to use, I don't know. I just got missed by the T-29. Look at the T-71DA up there. He's hiding in the bushes. I'm sort of hoping we'll start jumping on this guy. He's got a fairly long reload. I shoot the dirt. That did not help. I've already fired 2 of my APCR rounds to no avail, and the T-71 takes a little heat off of me. And I'm really hoping we can just come in here and start circling this guy. So we'll try to get a shot on him as he comes in. Oh, no, he doesn't do it. His turret's not looking, so there we go. Auto aim worked that time. And we'll just go around. And this is not anything you couldn't do. Not anything you couldn't do. This is something you could do in any regular light tank in the game. So we're just abusing this poor T-29. I'll just stay away from his turret. He knows he's done. And we get rid of that guy. But it's 3 light tanks, right? That's nothing 3 light tanks that already existed couldn't do in this game. One thing I will say about the mobility on the wheeled tank, and this one in particular, is I said it wasn't any slower than a lot of the tanks, or any faster, sorry, than a lot of the light tanks, but because it's so light, it goes up hills really well. It will hold speed going up hills. So that is one of its advantages. And then the backwards thing. So I think I have some examples here soon. If not, it'll be in the next one, I believe. Now here's something you would do in a light tank. You'd come up to a bush like this and you'd expect your spotting to really help you out, but then you realize you're in one of these things and the best you get is here. It's not even close to the maximum capability. That's terrible. So I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Anyway, there's 2 scouts well ahead of me, so even if I had good view range, those 2 would be seeing well ahead of me anyway. But say those 2 weren't there and I was attempting to look down that hill, I'm not seeing very far. Take a couple shots at him. And see that fast backward speed? And that's what I'm talking about right there. I went forward, took a shot, and then I just backed out nice and fast, and I can really get up to speed quickly going backwards, which is very helpful for getting out of places. And you need that with the wheeled vehicles, because one thing you will find, if you get stuck in some place, whereas a tank might be able to spin around on its tracks and head out, your maneuverability right and left, your turn capability is kind of bad, and you're going to need that reverse kind of movement, that reverse speed to get out of things. See how fast she's back right out. That's actually very good. Come back in. No, T-71. It's looking kind of good, but it's a bit of a trick, and this is one of the problems with this tank right here. Other scouts would be able to kind of go down there and get some spots and light guys up, but the vision on this thing is so anemic, I have to expose myself. And on a map like this, where I can't really get in too close without having lots of fields of fire take me out, and I might be able to get up to this little divot right here. This little ravine will help me out a little bit. I'd really like to get this 1357 out. I see him coming. I'm thinking, oh, he'll come right around that corner. I'll get him. Then he stops. God, dadgummit. See how badly this thing turns? That is the maximum turn I was trying to put on that thing. And, oh geez, 89. That was not helpful. 89 and he gets away from me. Down he goes. And again, a normal scout with good view range would probably be lighting some of these things up right here. Would certainly have a much better chance. I can't see a daggum thing. T-71 is stuck up by the church. LTTB is down in the marsh, and they have really turtled up on their cap. What I'd really like is that other AMD to be taken out so we can secure that flank, and then we will own a good chunk of the map. But right now, all those guys camping are going to have shots on guys like the T-50-2 or the E-25 if he moves in, trying to take out that AMD. Then I noticed the T-71 is moving into the forest. So we will see how I had to reposition right there? Forward and back while turning. You can't just spin in place like a tracked vehicle will. So shifting around in bushes is incredibly painful in these things. Another reason why these kind of stationary passive spotting spots are not that great for this tank. You see I come out backwards nice and fast, it zings along, no problem. I'll actually use my reverse speed to change my map position, whereas in a tank I'd have had to spun around and gone forward. I just go backwards. It is a bit tricky on the driving. You have to reverse your turns as far as which finger is turning you right or left. And if you get into a scrum, that can be really hard to deal with. So we'll just drop a good shot on that guy and boop. Down he goes. Somebody else hit him because I only did 19 in the kill. It looked nice. It said 350, but it wasn't 350. Not for me anyway. And meanwhile, the T-71 has got some work done. The RHM nearly killed. I didn't realize that he was over here making a move. Now the LTTB is about to make a move in there. And I probably should have done that myself, but the problem is the RHM is going to one-shot my little tier 6. I've only gotten, what, 568 hit points left. Even the damaged LTTB has more hit points than I do. And then we find this. There's the VTU. Try to get the LTTB out. And I leave him 7 hit points. And really having some bad luck on this stuff. There we go. There we go. And now the RHM, he's unfortunately down in the hole, but the LTTB takes him out. And now things are looking good. I can go ahead and push on in here. See if we can take these guys down. There's 2 artillery left. There's a VTU. Who is, I don't think a one-shot, but close to it. Push on in here, and this should be close enough to spot things. There we go. So we got this end armor. Looks like I hit him in the mantlet. Of course I did. I get hammered. I lose my turret. Dadgummit, trying to figure that out. Put another hit on him. And now I use that reverse speed, right? That's that reverse speed getting out of there. See how I was able to actually get away from that shot because I was moving so fast? There's the damaged wheel. See how they're all wonky right there, and I'm nice and slow? So I'm going to wait for the wheel to get fixed before I move in. The M44 goes down to the S71 firing in there, and now it's just dealing with this VTU, who actually has a pretty good alpha. It's just me and E25 and a couple Arty, so the last thing I want to do is let him take 2 of us down and then go hunting our Arty. That's not good at all. So the E25 is moving in, and I'm just creeping forward, trying to get a shot. There he is. So he's not even a one-shot. He's going to take a while to take down. I don't know why that happened. The crazy E25 does that, but I'm able to take him down before he quite gets away. That was almost worst case scenario right there. If he'd have seen me, he might have got a shot on me. It is a fairly long reload on the VTU, which is why I was hanging out so much firing. If he'd have started turning his turret towards me there, though, I would have had to get out. There you go, 4 kills, 1,725. Look at my assist. That's a good case for why I have a 200 average assist. It's a scout. They want you to be active spotting people, but by the time you're close enough in spotting, there's probably a lot of other people around, and you're not getting that assist damage. So it's kind of crazy. Scout-wise, it's really a different idea. Let's move on to the next. The second example, I'm top tier, so I should be abusing a bunch of tier 4s. I did this on stream. I was going to try some jumps and see. Yeehaw! So, you know, but jumping is fun. I will say that about the wheeled vehicles. Jumping off stuff is pretty fun. The reason is that the wheeled suspension takes less damage from jumps than the tracked ones do. So they've mech'd it such that these things jump better, and that's by design. So you can jump off things. However, what you want to watch out for is hitting the, what am I going to try to say here? You want to watch out for landing not on all four. That still didn't come off very well. If you get sideways in your jump, you're going to get a lot more damage. Is that better? That's better. You'll take the same kind of damage. And there's that gun accuracy that just really isn't that great. Plus some kind of bad gunnery shooting behind him. Look at that backward speed. So there's an example of what's really nice about it is you can kind of come up to those, see that? Artillery miss, because probably not used to the speed at which this thing backs up and moves around in straight lines. Maneuverability is okay on an open map like this. So I can kind of turn right and left, not too bad. But it's really that forward and backwards thing. I'm going to use that to good effect on here. I'm going to fight near this whole battle on this southern, whatever I'm trying to say here, flank. And I've got a Jagdpanzer 4 up there. ELC goes after him. I don't notice him initially. I get lit by all those lights down there. And then the JP4 is hammering this poor guy. And holy cow, that went into his matlet. Now see, I'll just use my backward speed to get the heck out of there. A regular tank, a regular scout, tracked scout would have a lot more trouble getting away before that JPZ turned around and put a shot into him. I got this bush here, take a little shot on him. Artillery's still firing away at me. I'm trying to use this bush to light up this JP4. Oh, holy cow, there's this guy. There's a shot. So we get a shot, and again, backward speed. It just drop right back out of that thing. And I decide, all right, I don't want to get pushed by this guy and shot by the JPZ, so let's get out of here. And I do take a JPZ shot. There's that damage to my wheel that slowed me down. Thank goodness it wasn't too bad. I still have some decent movement. Looks like 52. Now the ELC is pushing back. And I'm going to wait here while my wonky wheel gets fixed. Come on, guys, fix the wheel. Get out of there. Now the wheel's fixed. And I'm going to try to track down this ELC. Oh, there he is. Silly thing. Missed him. Going to auto-aim him. And we'll just ram him down. Actually, it looks like my shot killed him before I rammed. He missed, thank goodness. And I take another hit from the JP4. JPZ4. And he's problematic. So I'm shooting some regular AP rounds at him. Let's see if we get... I know I get some shots here, so let's watch what happens if I can find him. No, he's further up on the hill, probably behind the bush there. There's that spotting range problem, right? That view range problem. A regular tier 8 light probably would have enough to burn through or find him. He's right on the edge of my capability right there. So there's a situation where I'd have been much better off in, say, a 12T or a 50-2. Got to kind of creep forward. The only way to find him is to come outside of this bush, so I decide, well, let's not just push through the bush, go somewhere else. Come back over here. And I'm basically just dueling this JPZ4 for the entire bloody match. He doesn't want me to get around behind him, and I don't want to eat too many shots trying to push into him. So let's see how we work that little situation here. There he is. Oop, I went too far. Got one. That's an APCR. Trying to get out. And I got hit again. And another got track. Hitting a track. Holy cow. Not going too well. He's definitely got the advantage at this point. Wait till I'm dark, push back up, and where is he? Holy cow, is he really disappeared behind that bush? Or is he gone somewhere else? I see the Panzer Fizzle Sizzle Toaster dude over there, so I decided to come around this way. That's that backwards. See that backwards reposition capability? It's a really good advantage for this tank. Come up, can't find him, and back forward, and back up again, and he's behind all those buildings. Not able to get a shot. Things are looking good, but there are still 3 TDs on their side, and this is how this tank is difficult to use, because the TDs are going to see you well before you see them. Unless there's some kind of cover you can come up behind them on. And once you get around behind them, you got some pretty good maneuverability, but even circling isn't that easy with this thing. So on the one hand, you'd think, well, it's probably a pretty good TD hunter, especially for casemate TDs. On the other, it has some serious limitations that make it difficult to do so. Okay, so the toaster went down. The AMX-105AM goes down. And now I'm going to come up to this guy's perch and attempt to get close. I'm like, oh, geez, he actually is up there peeking over. And I get a lucky shot on one of the other TDs who happens to have been up there, apparently, for most of the game. There's the LEFH, and I'm wondering, well, surely my artillery or that guy over there, the Excalibur, can take him out. So I'll leave. Oh no, guess not. We lost 2 guys in a row. There's that TD. Come up here and take a shot. A little backwards movement. And again, the backwards, watch the backwards capability. We'll try to kill this guy. We can't do it. We'll just dive off this. Look how fast I'm backing up. He just really can't follow me. If that was a regular tank and I was backing up, he'd have come right around, squared up, and started shooting me in the face. And look how fast I can just disappear up and around the corner. Artillery's going after me. Having a hard time timing it because of the speed. And I'm coming backwards. Down he goes. Now back to forward. I'm looking for the JPZ. Where is this guy? There he is. Turtle up against the rock. There's that silly LEF. He's shooting at me. The JPZ is exposed to the artillery. My TD is, I don't know what he's doing over there. Really great positioning up in the northeast corner, sitting there doing nothing. And I'm just expecting or hoping that the artillery can work on this guy, get him down to a 1-shot so I can come off this hill and get rid of him. Let's see if we can light him up over here. There he is. Oh, he's coming up the hill, so let's get out of here. There's the LEF taking shots at me. M44 is facing up. Maybe he'll get the drop on the Panzer IV. Coming around wide. Let's see if we can find a shot on the guy wide over here. The other thing going through my mind is maybe we should go in there and try to get this LEFH out. It'll be easier to deal with the Panzer IV, but then Panzer IV is exposed, so that's alright. And we'll crit damage him. There we go, finally a shot. Finally take the guy down. Nice job on the M44's part. Keeping that guy busy. Dodge a little bit for the LEFH, and we'll come on up here and look for this guy. LEFH is not a very fast tank, so it should be fairly easy to find. Not not a massive damage game, 819, only 135 on the assist. There's that kind of funny assist situation with what is arguably a very maneuverable light tank that simply has trouble getting assist damage. Come up here and find the LEFH. So let's take him down. Oh, a little slide. Missed. I get hit by the artillery. Thank you for that. And stunned again. 929, 135 assist, 3 kills. Top tier, granted, but this one had a good example of that forward and back speed being used. I wanted you guys to see that. All right, let's wrap. All right, well, that is it. So what do we have here, really? What we have here is a bad tier 6 light tank. That's the bottom line. It really is, but it's fun. All right, so I just called it bad, but it is fun. What it lacks is a lot of the uniqueness that the other wheeled vehicles have: the boost, the maneuver mode, and the fast mode. What it has is the one trick of backwards as fast as it goes forwards. Other than that, it's a pretty terrible tier 6 light tank. It really is, honestly and truly, bad as a light tank, and unfortunately lacks some of the really cool stuff that the higher tier wheeled vehicles will have. But it's fun, like I said. And number 2, it allows you at tier 6 to learn how to drive the wheeled vehicles, because the way it drives is exactly like the way the other ones drive, in that it can turn, but it can't spin around in bushes. There's this kind of your 3-point turn when you're learning how to drive that you dread. Be ready to do a lot of 3, 4, 9, 10-point turns in this thing while you're attempting to use it. But it will allow you at tier 6, which is a relatively forgiving tier, to learn how this thing maneuvers, learn how it works on all the maps, because all the maps are open at tier 6. You're going to go to pretty much all of them at tier 6, no problem. So use it for that. Enjoy it for what it is. Don't expect it to be anywhere near as fun as the higher tier ones, but it's a fun, crummy light tank at tier 6, which is helpful. All right, good gun depression, pretty good HE shell, goes as fast backwards as it does forward. Otherwise, it's bad. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and we will see you